So we grew up on, or at least I grew up on, alien abduction and anal probes and hybrid human alien babies, strange implants, crop circles. You have to have the crop circles and cattle mutilations. Tonight we're gonna do something adjacent to that. We're gonna do the politics of disclosure and the geopolitical implications of extraterrestrial contact. Recently, um, I think it was Brian Tyler Cohen, the internet political commentator, who asked Obama if aliens were real. And Obama said, yes, but I haven't seen one. Um, so aliens are on the mind, especially if they can distract from other shit. You know, the X Files are preferable to the Epstein files from the perspective of those Earthlings who abduct, anally probe, and colonize. These are the close encounters of the elite kind. Those are the kinds that we are more likely to have either directly or peripherally. In the last few years, the UFO, that even that term has given way to UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena. Um, Disclosure is said to be on the horizon. So here tonight in Denis Villeneuve's Arrival, we have the imagining of one possible contact scenario and how governments would respond to that, how language and culture would frame intergalactic slash interdimensional diplomacy, and how colonialism, linear thinking, and our human ways of perceiving shape the concepts of time, our concepts of time and reality. Um, like on the X Files, it says that the truth is out there, but so are the lies. RickRamos, what say you?
I hadn't seen Arrival since it was in theaters in 2016, so we're talking a little less than a decade. But the time, it's very strange that in discussing in watching and discussing a film about time, the memory of time plays into it. So I guess subconsciously. I mean, it's weird as I look at it now. A film that I thought was exceptional, especially in 2006 in the I guess in the wake of what was being released around it, and I can't remember anything, which tells you a lot about that time, or at least reflects my opinion on that time. But watching it now, 2 times in 2 days, I think I'm and with the limitations of a home viewing, I feel as though I'm watching something that is far more important than what I might have perceived of it, what I might have perceived in 2016. Now, watching this movie, this is a science fiction. I don't know if you would call it a thriller. It's just a science fiction drama. Um, Typically, with science fiction and alien encounter films, what you're watching is a dangerous parasite that enters our world. I'm thinking specifically of The Thing, John Carpenter's reimagining, his 1981-82 reimagining of the original film, or later on his They Live, which is a science fiction um, imagining, well, interpretation of um, the Reagan era political scheme. The point is that in the majority of movies with an alien presence, the alien is a threat to us. Ridley Scott, James Cameron with Xenomorphs, Carpenter, The Day the Earth Stood Still, which could be argued depending on what the original intent was. Denis Villeneuve's film is not that. Sci-fi tends to be a very bleak and cynical view of the future. And I think bleak and cynical, pessimistic, these are all realistic ways of looking at the human species and how we are basically designed to destroy ourselves, or at least maybe not designed to destroy ourselves, but at least seem to be acting in a way of self-destruction. Those films resonate. Blade Runner, The Thing. Villeneuve's film is hopeful. It's realistic in its depiction of government and the military handling everything as a threat, and maybe possibly it should be handled as a threat, at least until the answers are arrived at. But I found this film very hopeful, and hopeful in such a way as to be realistic as far as I'm concerned. I want to believe that there is the chance and potential for human alien interaction, a meeting that benefits both of us. I count this film as one of the best science fiction films ever made. And I think it's because of its realistic handling of humanity, our fears, our ego, our curiosity, but also the danger within ourselves to destroy ourselves. I don't remember having those feelings in 2016 when I saw this movie, but maybe 2016 was a little bit more of a hopeful time. Or at least not necessarily as bleak as I view the times that we're living in. So, watching this, there were a lot of angles. There was the human angle of watching it. There was the filmmaking angle, the narrative, the editing. And I seem to remember the sound design when I saw it in the theater the first time. An experience that's not replicated at home. I'm blown away by this film. I'm hopeful, and I'm excited at the possibility that maybe we're not destined for self-annihilation. But then again, maybe I'm just reading too much into a movie. So let's. Those are my cards. Let me know what you think.
I mean, a lot has changed since last week,
And the week before that, and the day before that.
Yeah. Right. Things change and some things fucking stay the same. It's a lot. Watching this film while watching the world, watching this film and trying to go back and remember what it was like having watched it the first time. The idea of, you bring up like this history of aliens and alien interaction with cinema, and we have like going back even before cinema, if we go back to the idea of Orson Welles doing H.G. Wells' Wells's War of the Worlds, and a lot of the, like, Buck Rogers pulp shit. Like you said, it all builds up on this like external threat. And into Red Scare 50s shit, The Day the Earth Stood Still, you mentioned War of the Worlds as a film, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original, and and the subsequent remakes, and Close Encounters. Once we get into the 70s, and even Star Wars, um, uh, Star Trek, all that shit, and then the 80s, what you talked about, Carpenter, The Thing, They Live, Alien, E.T. is like the cute side of it, but it shows.
But there's still a danger.
There's still a danger, and the danger might be humans misunderstanding the danger, which is we get into here. And Alienation, a film that I've been wanting to revisit because it's about immigration.
Mm-hmm. A very underrated film. Very underrated.
Immigration, integration, into the 90s. Fucking, there's a film called The Arrival with Charlie Sheen. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I've heard of it. That's where Charlie Sheen grows a Van Dyke and puts on glasses, and now he's a genius.
Yeah, it's a fucking it's one of those movies, and it's you had Men in Black, Independence Day,
yeah.
Contact was a big one, with that was based on the Carl Sagan book, and it was with
Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. This is going to be one of those days where I have trouble with names.
We've both been there.
I used to watch Sightings. I don't know if you ever watched that show.
No.
There was a show called Sightings in the 90s, and I used to watch the fuck out of that show. And then later, like Alien Autopsy with the I think his name is Jonathan Frakes. I think he was like the second in command.
Star Trek
number one in Star Trek Next Generation. Yeah. And then and M. Night Shyamalan Signs, and so on and so forth. Sci-fi is a good vehicle. I think it's one of the most important genres, and I think it's just such a good way of looking at the present through the filter of the future, and analyzing it, and really critiquing. A few, I don't know how months or however many episodes ago, I was like, shit's gonna start to get even more weird. Like, I can feel it. I remember it brought to mind. I was like, I remember saying I wouldn't be surprised if we started having a spike in fucking UFO sightings and all this crazy shit, just because when shit gets fucking weird on the ground, it seems to fucking, like, in our minds, we start looking for shit to get weird in the sky or in the water, or underground or whatever. And this is definitely one of those times where, recently there's been a whole, there's been a lot more shit in politics related to UAP and congressional hearings, and now the Obama thing. I don't know how much attention it caught a little bit of attention, and then we went to war, and then all this other shit. And it brings it back to the idea of, plus the let's talk about fucking aliens because of the Epstein files. There's that part too. But it's aliens can be useful, and it's like, well, when it's convenient, we want those kind of aliens, the ones that we call illegal aliens that are actually human. We don't want those. All of that being said, it's in this film, and in the themes that are wrapped around it, it's the idea of, like, well, what's the threat when, from our perspective, in the sequence of this film, it's like the threat is actually not. The threat is we are the threat. It's not some external species or some external entity or some external power, and we tend to have this we have this tendency to either look for external threats or to look for external salvation. And typically, a lot of times, it's going to come from the fucking sky, or from over the horizon. Whether it's the cowboy coming up over the hill, or the GI, or and send air support, bring in the cavalry, or whatever the fuck it is. It's, oh my God, please, from the clouds, someone come and fucking save us. And I mean, and a lot of that might have to do with, like the rain can fucking save us when we need it for crops. And that's the water and irrigation and fucking civilization, meaning like a stable, large place where you grow food and live. Civilization meaning that. Being grounded to that area versus nomadic, that so much of that is a thing. But it's really about the question of who's going to save us and having to work together, and who's going to destroy us. Well, it's us if we don't work together, and that's really something that this film gets at in terms of the concept of time, our different types of writing, different types of language, because that's all culture. And we can only approach that from, number one, a human outlook, and then even deeper and more specifically, like what language do we speak? What culture do we practice, or do we continue to perpetuate that filters our fucking way of looking at shit? So that if we were to deal with an entity from either another galaxy, or somewhere from within our galaxy, or somewhere from some other fucking dimension, like how far outside of our own fucking like comprehension would that thing be? And how would we communicate? Are we going to do those tones like in Close Encounters that when you look at that it looks fucking silly, like in comparison to this? Or Terrence McKenna talked about these things that were called machine elves. He described them as machine elves. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I'm not familiar with it, no.
If you take DMT, you supposedly get transplanted. This has been reported by multiple different separate people, some of whom have not heard of even this story. So they wouldn't have been influenced by it. But supposedly you get like in your mind, because it's this fucking psychedelic drug, it shoots you beyond like beyond this like white environment or whatever into another realm in your mind, right? And in this realm, you encounter these balls, these entities that look like basketballs that are made of like bejeweled geared basketballs that roll towards you and transform into like these little elven creatures, and they laugh at you, and they might say like, ah ha 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 ha, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, ha 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 ha, and they're like strange. And then because it's a short thing, you're back. And I think Michael Pollan on Rogan did an interview. I don't know how long ago. Michael Pollan's like a food writer, and he's gotten into psychedelic shit, and he was talking about he never saw them because he was like only like in like a white room. And Joe Rogan's like, I don't think you did enough to get past that. Like you didn't go far. You didn't smoke enough to go further. And so there have been questions around these machine elves, questions as to like, is the drug triggering something like a common hallucination for people who take it, that it's just this common, is it a collective Jungian collective unconscious thing, that it's an archetype that pops up, or is it actually an access point to a different dimensional world where these things actually exist and you are visiting them? um, the reason I bring all this shit up is because how the fuck, if you were to do that, how the fuck do you, like, what do you do, right? When you encounter that, what do you do? Um, how do you wrap your mind around that? And that's when you buy the ticket and you take the ride, so to speak. Now, if you reverse it, and now it's like these fucking things have now come here in our fucking world with our atomic weapons and our fucking uh, so-called dome fucking missile security systems, that some of which are failing apparently now. And all of this, the Iron Dome and all that shit, and all of our fucking paranoia and all of our, I mean, rightfully so. And these things land, 12 of them, these vessels land in 12 parts of the world. And the military's like, what the fuck do they want and where are they from? How the fuck do you begin to deal with that? And what happens to societies? Because that puts into question everything that fucking we're so earth centric, anthropocentric, Eurocentric, that fucking like, oh shit, right? And this film really touches on that, and it does a good job of kind of confronting us with that, with these realities, and it does a really good job of because now it's like, well, what the fuck are these aliens going to look like in this movie? Because there's a whole history of that. Well, there's so much weird shit. Like, if aliens exist, why do they have to be humanoid?
Mm-hmm.
We've had a history of like, biblically, you go back and you can see in Ezekiel, there's Ezekiel's wheel. So it's like this wheel within a wheel. So it's like years. Um, or Elijah is like the chariot of fire, this whirlwind ascension to heaven thing. The idea of like propulsion or movement that's relatable to us. It's a wheel or a chariot. A lot of that stuff influences, I remember when History Channel used to be mostly about Nazis, and it's something that like your friend's dad would watch all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always fucking World War II shit and fucking Hitler's fucking 13th bunker and all this other shit. Then it shifted to History Channel, became all about fucking aliens and Bigfoot. Um, and you would hear about these ancient alien theories, the Eric von Daniken's chariots of fire, and basically the pyramids, all these megalithic structures, all that shit, they were alien influenced. You have runways in Peru um, and Anunnaki, fucking Zechariah Sitchin theories about Mesopotamian gods that were actually aliens from the Biru that engineered humans. It becomes very like Prometheus like, whatever. And beneath all of that is basically, well, if the culture is not white, then aliens must have helped them build these fucking structures, because why would they fucking be able to do it on their own? That's kind of like you peel back all of the sci-fi and you get to racist colonial perspectives. But it's like looking at it, we're imposing our modern views on, or there's this Guatemalan relief um, where it's like, oh, that's an ancient astronaut. Can't you see that he's sitting in a cockpit? He's this is look, his foot is on a pedal, and it's like, well, that's what it looks like if you know about fucking cars, or you know about shit that has like pedals, without taking any account of like what it means or what it meant for the people who created it. Or you look at modern alien events, and there's been, the Roswell, the flying saucers, Battle of Los Angeles, Whitley Strieber's Communion, the Christopher Walken became a Christopher Walken film, or Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky. All of that stuff, you get a modern look at the alien that looks like a tiny person with a big ass head and big almond shaped eyes. And even in a cult, like where it overlaps with a cult shit, it's like Aleister Crowley pre fucking like alien shit, because Roswell and all that shit. That's 1947 when Crowley actually died, and that's what the speculation about, did he open up a fucking portal and blah blah. Apparently, at one point he made a drawing of this creature or this entity named Lamb, and the entity looks like a gray, what they call the Greys, which is a tiny creature, big ass head, like teardrop shaped head, with almond shaped eyes. Again, like, assuming none of this shit exists, we're imposing, it's still humanoid.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Eyes, nose, mouth, head.
Or I mean, even if it doesn't have a nose, it has like the hole,
slits.
Slits. Yeah, right.
Nasal
And
passage.
or they have the remember that miniseries V, and that goes to the they live part where it's reptilians, and I don't remember the guy's name again. That's one of those days for me. I don't remember he's this English conspiracy theorist. David Icke is his name.
Mm-hmm.
He was like big on the fucking, they're actually reptilians and they're in the government, they're at the highest levels, and it goes to V again. It's like, well, now we're going to go counter to the human thing, and they're not humans. Or else there's like, well, there are different species of aliens, and there's actually Nordic fucking aliens that they're tall and blonde. And it's like, okay, could you get any more fucking racial in that shit? In this film, you don't have that. In this film, they're fucking heptapods.
Well, what do they look like?
What do
they look like to you?
They either look like they could be kind of like squid, or when you first see them, they could look like a hand that's kind of like the Thing from the Addams Family. So I connected it with squid because of weird fiction, sci-fi, Lovecraft, Cthulhu, like that shit. What did they look like to you?
They look like trees in the Everglades. With the heptapod, the tentacles being, you know how the roots you can see where they're jetting out, which also
in the bayous.
Exactly, and it leads towards the idea of the tree of life and wisdom and the oldest things on Earth. I believe the oldest things on Earth are trees. Correct?
I mean, I imagine you mean living things.
Some of the oldest living things on Earth are trees. And they date back for
trees are old as fuck. Yeah. And they have wisdom. Like that's the whole Once you get into that, that's a whole other level of symbolism. That correct. Tree of life, fucking the ascension to the fucking to the heavens, our whole fucking nervous system and respiratory system and all that shit looks like trees.
Yeah.
It looks like a fucking network like that.
Yeah, that's the way I saw it.
That's cool too. And the idea of a network and how roots work underground, and and then you get into like mushrooms and shit like that. And then you're, because I do see this as a psychedelic film. because the idea is like how the language that she learns from them expands her mind, and you. So the premise of the film, I've just been rattling off all this random shit. Originally, my whole point of all this was to get to the idea of how we are so fucking centered in our own experience and centered in our own, um, not only our perspectives, cultural, linguistic, etc., but only our individual perspectives. For and separate that from nationalism, religion, culture, etc. Um, that like we don't even realize that fucking like our interpretation of reality is fucking like just filtered. We know that to a degree, but we believe that we are the fucking center of the universe because everything is seen outward from our point of view, literally. Um, to the degree that even fucking every encounter with another person is filtered from, okay, how does this fucking relate to me?
Yeah.
Including our ideas of fucking celestial beings and fucking aliens and etc. And it all comes back to like either being so opposite of human or so human like or so it's a dragon or it connects to all this other shit. But this heptapod thing really fucking, I mean, again, if you take the squid thing, there's a Jules Verne and Kraken and all that stuff, literary history to that with weird fiction and sci-fi, and again, Lovecraft. Um, but I wasn't expecting that when I first saw that movie. I didn't know what to expect, but I wasn't expecting um, that, and I wasn't expecting them to be that huge and that fucking loud, and and for the sounds or to be that deep, or that they would communicate using these inky, going back to the squid thing, like this ink where they would make these circle patterns, and it's the premise is that 12 vessels land in 12 parts of the world. The militaries of all of the different countries are freaking the fuck out. The U.S. military recruits a linguist and a physicist to help communicate with these beings, and they want to know where they're from and what do they want. And so you have these kind of conflicting now views of how to even interact with them, because you have a pragmatic military. How do we respond to this shit? A scientific, like, okay, what do we observe? And then an academic, well, what are we learning? How do we ultimately, like, are we going to derive some meaning from this? Um, and all of those things themselves are use different language, and they're on different uh, time schedules, because the military is like, well, how do we fucking respond like right now? And then the scientific perspective is like, well, we need more time to observe, to interact, to see what patterns. And then the academic one is like, well, we need more time to, what does this mean? And all of those are supposed to be working together, but they're in conflict. And then now you have that stack of perspectives compared to other countries who have that same stack of perspectives, maybe in other different orders. And ultimately, they arrive at a point where, through their different means and methods, different countries have come to communicate with these beings, and these beings are fucking offering a weapon, or what is with quotes, weapon. So now everyone's like, oh fuck. And because of our human history of colonization and fucking war and atrocity, etc., because we're fucking hierarchical animals and we fucking suck. Um, I mean, we obviously we've done beautiful things, but we fucking suck. It's like shit. Like they're gonna colonize the fuck out of us. Look at what happened. You know, it always goes back to like, well, look at what happened to indigenous people here.
Yeah.
Um, And how do they fucking deal with that? How do they fucking deal with that? And the main character, Amy Adams, is while she's dealing with this, she's having these fucking flashbacks to her fucking daughter's life. And
See, I got questions
spoiler alert,
about that. Go
what?
ahead though. No, go ahead.
Spoiler alert is that while she's having these interactions with these beings while she's learning their language, you realize, well, they're not flashbacks.
Hmm.
These are premonitions. These are visions that she's having of the future. And it's like the temporal rug is being fucking pulled out from under her because she's just like, what the fuck? And the whole point is that the flash, all of the memories, she's experiencing them early, so they're future memories. So that after where the events of the alien contact, once those end, then all the shit with her daughter begins. So it's post these events. What was going to be your question?
Well, for me, it was interpretation is an interesting thing, especially in a film like this where it's not definite. I'm not sure if those flashbacks or premonitions are occurring at that moment and she's experiencing them
Right.
as
Well, there's
such.
that.
I think that
Well,
it's a matter of uh, a parallel story. It's possible. I mean, it could be that. It could be that. It could be flashbacks, premonitions, and also what you haven't talked about is the gift of the language that the aliens are giving
right.
is an understanding of um, experience and the life of a being as a continuous thing. That's what's important about the way they speak with circles.
Yes.
There is no beginning, there is no end. There's
Yes.
just a circular movement through time, so
Mm-hmm.
that everything in the future informs
It's always
the
happening.
past informs the future, and both
Right.
of them exist within the present, which is a fascinating idea, and is it's almost too much for an audience to take in completely, as I'm
So,
trying to understand whether or not these are premonitions, flashbacks,
right.
or just parallel
Yeah.
storytelling. Because
All of it. Yeah.
all of it. Because with filmmaking, the second go around, which is actually the third go around of watching this movie, but the second go around for the second time viewing this for this specific
But
episode,
it's all the first because it's
it's
always happened.
absolutely, there's that aspect of it. I started thinking about Eisenstein, and I started thinking about cutting in film in order to elicit emotion and create a
Mm-hmm.
dramatic arc, which is,
Yeah.
very strong here. So it's like, what are we watching? Are these premonitions that she's not even aware she's having because she's slowly learning the language of these aliens?
Right.
um is it slowly seeping into her subconscious? And
Yes.
and so that I found that very powerful. I found it, and I love the fact that I don't have a distinct answer. There is no
Right.
point in the film where I think there are certain points where I was like, okay, it is sunk in. She's learned the language, and now she's been given this power, and she knows how to utilize it. But it's not specific to her. The language itself is going to be the thing that saves us as a species. That forces our hand to understand each other, to embrace the Chinese, the Russian, the Arabic, the whole wealth of humanity, bringing us together so as we realize we're not 12 we're not 12 different things. We are 12 pieces of a whole. We
Yes.
are a puzzle that comes together to show a bigger picture. And um I thought that was really And you got to understand, I am not this is not, that's the kind of shit that if done badly, I'd be like, oh, bullshit, get the fuck out of here with this. We're all one species.
Yeah,
We're all
I mean,
one species. We're all one race, the human race. Bullshit.
yeah,
I could not
right.
get aboard. But to do it in
You were
this
about to say,
manner,
you guys got to remember, I'm a cynic, and we're always gonna go fuck. Like, I'm glad you fucking gave us that
part of that is
reminder.
reminding myself
Twice.
too. I was like, get back to Carpenter, get back to Carpenter. These things want to kill us, okay? Where's the paranoia? Where's the AIDS? That's what I want to see. But there's something here that is hopeful. And when, I gotta admit, when the hope is grounded in truth, in a reality that I've experienced, which is basically there are good people. If you work, if you work for a company, if you have a job, um, at least the way I look at it, I hate supervisors, I hate management, I hate the corporation as a whole.
Yeah,
But there is an understanding that the grunts, the people that I'm working with who are doing the same job, not all of them, because some of them are bootlicking cocksuckers themselves, but there are those of us who are doing the job and want to be left alone to do the job to the best of our ability. Don't come up to me as a soup. Don't come up to me as a manager asking how my day is, because I know you don't give a fuck.
yeah. Get out of my way and let me do
Yeah,
my shit.
let me finish my 8 hours so I can collect my fucking money, so I can have my benefits, so that I can go get my goddamn colonoscopy, so that I don't die next month. It's bleak. It's hopeless. But I know that there are guys with me who don't want to take that upper management route. Those are my brothers and sisters. Those are the ones that I relate to. Not all of them. Like I said, some of them are assholes and some of them are not bright. But that's the army that I live with. Those are the ones that I'm fighting with,
Yeah,
together with.
workers of the
You know what I
world
mean?
unite.
Exactly. And I like this idea in this film, but there is the potential that we all have a humanity within us, that it is possible to come together. And that's the beauty of this film, is that it's not a sappy, um, ridiculous sell. It's an honest and very forthright way of approaching this type of situation. And I feel that there's so much going on here that lights that fire, that keeps that flame going, so that when either revolution or rapid evolution come upon us, not that we will be ready for it, but that we can take advantage of it. And there's a beauty in that. Um, I really did find myself abandoning, to a degree, my cynicism in watching this movie. And it's very rare to find something that reaches out to you like that. At the end of the day, after watching it the second time this morning, one thing that went through my head is, this is the science fiction masterpiece that he should be remembered for, not Dune, not that
Right.
not that tired, repetitive, sold to me so many fucking times bullshit white savior story. This is the one. And you could make 12 different movies out of this film. You could do you could show this film in China, the Chinese perspective, the Russian perspective, the Arabic, the because in the other in the 12 different places that they go, because I guarantee that the military and the government would be controlling each of those stories in the same way that the Montana American version is being told. But the scientists would be striving for truth. The scientists would be the ones struggling to make sense of it and find the humanity of the situation, unknowing that it is a thing that will bring us all together at some point. Um, and it's the aliens saving themselves 3,000 years in the future. Something that we don't even find out how that plays out. We just know
Right.
that
I mean,
they
is
need
it
to save
already happened?
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like you say, like she's it's the component that I hadn't brought up is that as she's supposedly like remembering the future, um, she's also experiencing it then and there.
Yeah.
Um, so like fuck, right?
Yeah.
Because all time is it's collapsed into uh one continuous like type of present.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the way that the film is cut up, because you're talking about, yeah, because it's like Eisenstein and Eisenstein meets fucking Einstein, you know.
Yeah.
And and in order to distract from Epstein, you know, and
All the Steins coming together.
so fucking like you have at one point a scene where so she's learning about the language,
Yeah.
and as she's learning about the language, she's having these visions, or what to us as viewers of the film seem like memories,
Mm-hmm.
about her daughter, and you have the understanding that her daughter is dead,
Yeah.
because her daughter dies of cancer or some kind of disease like that, and it seems to be very very fresh, um, and she's learning, and then ultimately you get this idea of, as I said earlier, the aliens are telling humans that they're offering them a weapon. Human beings are interpreting that term as weapon, but she's like, hey, wait a minute though, like it could be tool. Um, because it's like not only do we have fucking like words that are synonymous with other fucking words, there's also like idioms and shit that like that different cultures that speak like the same language can use, or like on the streets in Morocco, the Arabic is going to be different than on the streets in Lebanon. In the news, like the modern standard Arabic will be the same, um, because it's standardized. Um, and in a religious setting, like in a Quranic setting, it's going to be a classical Arabic. Um, but on the street or in somebody's house, it's going to be different because of the slang and different expressions that people use. Same thing, obviously, like um, in any language, and even within a country, right? Like we know that. So now, if you're trying to fucking learn like some other language, and the language that they use is not, um, it's not syllabic, it's not, it's symbols. We have elements of that, like in human writing, where you have, um, I think the Mayan language has elements of that, where it's like a certain picture means something, or like if you think of like emojis, um, an emoji. If someone were to study emojis, they don't say like, if it's a picture of a laughing face with the little tears falling out or whatever, like that doesn't represent a sound that you make when you read emojis. It just means laughing. Um, and we understand that that just means laughing. But some other person studying that would have to be like, okay, thumbs up, smiley face, um, or if they say it's like, oh, these people were texting late at night, and it was a peach, an eggplant, and a fucking 3 drops of water or whatever the fuck that thing is, and you're going like, what is that? What word is that? It's a word made up of 3 symbols. what word could that be? And it's like, no, motherfucker, you're talking about ass, dick, and fucking wet, you know? Like,
Well, that alone creates an idea. It's
yes.
not even a phrase or a word. That's an
Yeah.
idea.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, language is
Um,
fascinating.
yes. And symbols. And then now it's like the Chinese are using mahjong to the tile game.
Hmm.
They're using that to kind of communicate. So then the main character in the film is like, yeah, but with Forrest Whitaker, she basically is saying if that's all you're fucking using, like if you're all you're using is a hammer, and then he answers basically everything is now seen as a nail.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, like the idea is weapon, but it's like, well, technology, tool, um, medicine and poison, um, in the pharma um, prefix, they come from the same thing, poison and medicine. And they, you would think, well, these things do the opposite. Um, but it's like, um, some people now, when they talk about psychedelics, they talk about plant medicines. When they talk about natural psychedelics, they say
Hmm.
plant medicine. Some people describe it as a technology, um, versus fucking drugs, you know? Um,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's like, it's connotations, it's all of that shit. And at one point, everyone's going offline because they're like, fuck. Some people are going to say, well, we want this advantage. But at the same time, the Chinese are like, they're offering us a weapon. We need to fucking go offline from each other, cut off interactions with the aliens, and we need to have this fucking like international security council because they're going to try to incite violence like between us. They're going to divide and conquer. And so what we're going to do is now we're going to attack them unless they fucking leave. And the Amy Adams character is like, no. So of course she does what she needs to do, which is steal a phone and reach out and touch someone, so to speak. And she fucking calls. She doesn't know what she's gonna say, but then she does know because she's like, oh fuck, like time, past, and present are all the same. And then it becomes like a Bill Hicks fucking bit, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and
Well, at that point, she has learned the language, and maybe that's the thing with the memories start becoming a little bit more clearer the further along she goes with her understanding of the
yes,
language. So that as the
yeah,
language, and they even they talk about it, when she has a dream that seems as it's she's having a dream within a dream, I believe, where it's she's having a conversation with Jeremy Renner's character, where the idea that if you start to learn a language, you start thinking in that language and dreaming in that language.
right,
And so it
right.
changes your perception. And you and I have talked about that. And it's interesting because you speak two languages. I'm stuck in one language. But there are certain things that I do think about in Spanish that are not as easily translatable. You being somebody who speaks both languages can attest to that a hell of a lot better than I can. So
Well,
are
it's,
there
yeah,
times when
it's
you
weird.
think or dream in Spanish? My question, I guess.
It's also weird to because people who speak different languages like code switch, um, and then like to the way you code switch and like you'll mix, um, you mix sentences, um, and it comes out even sometimes like it comes out weird as a like as an English speaker, or sometimes I'll say things. I'll say a phrase in English, but the the emphasis or it'll sound like the emphasis would have been the way I would have said it had it been in Spanish. And then I'll be like, that was weird. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just certain things that, like I think for me and like growing up, I think the idea of shame was very big
Hmm.
because um, the idea of not being someone without shame is something that in Spanish like was very much like driven into me. Like don't be someone who lacks shame. Like
Well,
that's such a fucking insult to call
give them the
someone that.
word,
You know,
though.
like
Give them the word.
huh? Oh,
Give them the
sinvergüenza.
sinvergüenza. Yeah. See, even me, um, my mom wouldn't say uh, shameful or without shame. She would just say, "Este sinvergüenza," and it
Hmm.
would just be like hours of English, and then boom, that phrase. And that's the
Yeah,
example. That's where you find it, where it's like, oh, okay, so that's it's a Spanish concept. It's a Spanish language thing that I translate the idea of it in my head, but the idea is Spanish. It's not. It's in some ways it's not poetic. It's not as poetic in English, which is also a factor in how words are used and the intention of certain things. But it's a powerful statement. Sin vergüenza.
yeah. I mean, the other day I don't know what I said, and I told my wife, I told Leslie, I was like, "Me hace daño," and she was like, "What the fuck?" She was like, "All right, fucking señora, like fucking like." Because that's something that old ladies say, like, "Oh, it does me harm," you know.
Yeah,
And it usually means like, "Oh, going outside without a sweater or some bullshit like that," right?
yeah.
And, and it just gave so much like of a vibe of like a grandma, you know,
Hmm.
which is like I grew up with that, so that very much influenced me. So we were just fucking laughing at that for like a long time because it just came out.
Yeah.
And she was just making fun of me because it just, yeah, it's very much. Um, or if I come home from work and I'm like, oh, I want to make myself a tea, like I want a tea.
Hmm.
Um, it just sounds like you're a fucking old ass motherfucker. Like, what do you like? What?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, these little things that give so much meaning. Um, and yeah, it can just be one. The rest of the sentence is in one language and then one term,
Hmm.
and it just gives it a whole other fucking spin. And so imagine offer weapon. Um, what the fuck?
But it could be the perfect. It could, in a sense, it is the perfect term. A weapon to fight your own um, inevitable destruction, self-destruction.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like kind of like, well, if uh, if you were to ask a surgeon, well, tell me literally what you're gonna do, they're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna fucking slice open your fucking chest.
Hmm.
Um, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
you go, what the fuck? But the purpose behind slicing open your chest is to save you.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, like scalpel versus switchblade. Switchblade has its connotation, 80s leather jacket, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so all of that is built into this film. Um, and at one point in the so-called future, she meets this Chinese general after all the events have occurred, and somehow through his own fucking readings of the language or whatever it is, he primes. It's like he primes the past for the future by giving her his phone number because she at no point in the film does she have his phone number because he's a fucking head of state basically.
Hmm.
Um, but after the events occur, he gives her the phone number and she's just like, "What the fuck?" And he's like you're gonna need this basically in the past. And what changed my mind was what you told me.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I'm going to tell you what you fucking told me. So that in the past, she can remember what he said to her in the future, and she can tell him that so that she can change his mind. And I remember seeing that scene, and I was like, uh, Christopher Nolan needs to watch this movie and learn.
Yeah.
Because Christopher Nolan obviously is a fucking is, you could say he's a master at doing this, but this is kind of like what he wanted to do with Tenet,
Yeah.
but he didn't get it. I mean, including the palindrome, because in this film, the girl's daughter, the girl who is the main character's daughter, the the linguist who basically saves the world, Amy Adams' character, the master linguist, she names her little girl, um, uh, Hannah, and it's a palindrome. So the beginning and the end, it's the same going both ways. The name,
Yeah.
um, and so Nolan has always played with these layers and these ideas of time, and he's done it well. And I tend to think that part of his charm, I guess, is to muddy the waters to make it look a little bit more complicated than it is, because I can see the structure underneath it's a little bit more simple, but he makes it more complex.
Yeah.
He makes it more elegant, I think, in that way. But in Tenet, it was just kind of like, no, now you want us to fucking think that it's like, no, dude, like, um, I don't think so. But this is one of those films that does it well, I think.
Well, it's beautifully executed. The stakes are both high and the grand on the greater scale of a species, the human species, but also on the personal, because it asks the central question of, do you, at this point she learns that she's going to have a daughter. She realizes that she's
Mm-hmm.
going to have a daughter. She knows she's going to have a daughter. That daughter will become the world to her, and the daughter will die
Mm-hmm.
from cancer. Do you still want that? Do you risk the suffering and the pain inherent in losing somebody close to you for the love that you will experience while they are alive? And it's yeah.
Sorry, but
No.
well, finish this. I don't want to cut you off. Just finish
But
and
it's
then
also like the
yeah,
relationships she's going to lose with the husband, the love that she
right.
had with him, um, and the way it's going to affect every aspect of her life. Um, I can't speak to that because I've never had children. I'm not married. I've never been in love in that way. But a question like that presented in a story like this on film, it does force the hand. It does make you ask questions that you might not have been prepared for. And I will admit that I was not prepared for those questions the first time that I saw the film, and now 10 years later when I'm watching it again, the questions are more striking and they're a little bit more painful, and it's a very difficult viewing because of it.
Well, what makes it, even if you want to add to that difficulty, um, is if she already saw it in a future memory, if she already saw all these things about her daughter, then that means that she's gonna have that daughter
Mm-hmm.
because it's already built in to the future.
Yeah.
So if it's already built into the future, then that means that she doesn't have a choice.
I was wondering that as well. There was something about fate and
Yeah,
so the way this movie plays out, are we just actors in a story that's already been written for us? But then there's a question of, well, then how do you interpret that? Because you're still that doesn't take into account how you're going to interpret it as the character. So let's say that
yeah,
let's say that life is this circle of experience that we go through. No beginning, no end. Well, a beginning and an end, but everything is structured so that it's moving along a story. How are we going to react to the thing that we know is going to happen to us? Now,
right,
on the basic level, death, we can all anticipate that. We all know what it's going to mean. But the living that comes before that, um, there was a moment where I got kind of angry because it made it feel to me as though it was just about fate, which removed, I guess, our if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. So I have no power over this. But then I did start to wonder about, well, if that is the case, how would each of us react to it, and what would it mean to us to know that the future is what it will be, the happiness and the sadness. So
right.
I think it
I mean,
asks questions that I think it asks questions that mainstream films are not really known for. Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. It's difficult, and it gets into really these philosophical areas where now it's like, well, it's time, retro causality, you know, and is time a flat circle? Is everything recurrent? Nietzsche. Or I mean, does it fucking matter? Because then at that point it's like, well, because at some point you have these right winger soldiers that are listening to basically Fox News, and of course they're rattling off the invasion uh, terminology on that channel, where you have this Rush Limbaugh type of news guy saying like, we've been invaded, we need to have a show of strength, we need to show these fucking aliens our capabilities, and it's like, they're fucking aliens, motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
what? um
Yeah.
and yeah, wave the flag at the alien. Put your red hat on and wave the flag and show the aliens how big your dick is, dude. Go for it. Um, bring out the Department of War and show how big and show how many pull-ups you cannot do in front of this alien. So anyway, at one point there's this attack. The aliens save them because there's an attack on their vessel, an explosion. Um, she comes back and she asks about one of, because it's two aliens that she's named Abbott and Costello. And interestingly, because it's Abbott and Costello fucking meeting the monsters, but the monsters are the humans.
Yeah. Good pickup.
Um, and one of them is she's like, "Where's Abbott?" And the Costello alien is like, "Abbott is death process," which I thought was cool because that sounds like a translation
Mm-hmm.
of it's a literal translation, and so it sounds foreign to an English speaker because it's like, yeah, that's not how you say it, but I get it. But it also built into that is the idea that death is a process. It goes beyond the Abbott is in the process of dying, therefore Abbott is dying as we speak. Abbott is in critical condition, right? He's dying. Um, no, but Abbott is himself. It goes into his being that he is not only in the death process, but he is part of the death process just because of this whole like it's all together, you know? And they knew that Abbott was going to die. And they knew that they would need help in 3,000 years. And they knew that humans would give it. And they knew that they would be in a situation where they would need help. And it just becomes like, well, how the fuck, um, like, what does all that mean? Like, at that point, are you just a witness? Not only a robot, like, kind of like passively going through these motions, but like, what is it like what is it like to grieve your own death? Like, after you died? What is it like to celebrate your birth as you're dying? What is it like to remember before you were born? You know what I mean? Like, and to do it while you're eating lunch, like basically, like, well, what is that like? Um, and to do it, to be able to do it all at the same time. Um, you know, the ayahuasca experience is like, well, you have this whole progression of like, you see your life, your eyelids become the screen on which you see your whole life. Or when you're dying, supposedly like there's an element of DMT that's like produced, and you have that vision of your whole life flash before your eyes, and then you die. Um, it's a version of that because Abeder's death process. Um, and so it's like, yeah, this is just trippy as fuck. Um, and maybe there's an element to it that it's also to teach that it's not just we're passive robots. We're actually just like, I guess in the Buddhist sense, like we're just witnessing this unfolding of events and we're participating in it, but there's a level of detachment where we're engaged in what we're doing and we have intentions to be engaged in what we're doing and being like the so-called like the mindfulness thing. But while we're mindful and we're in the present, because it's always present, right? We are also detached enough where we aren't like through our ego gripping everything. We have enough detachment to just understand. And the Buddhists were good about this kind of like view of the world that, well, everything is temporary anyway. And our concept of ourselves and our concept of reality itself is Maya. It's an illusion. It's not real. And everything is just passing away. And so like there's an element to that to it as well that I think is also very poetic and philosophical and beautiful. And I felt like some of those moments where she's dealing with her daughter and she's having memories of her daughter drawing pictures of like mommy and daddy talk to monsters, and you're thinking like, oh shit, her daughter was having these premonitions. And it's like, no, well, her daughter knows the story of her parents' history because her dad is the fucking scientist and her mom is the linguist. And that's how they met. And at one point, Amy Adams' character tells
the daughter.
what's his name?
Oh, Renner.
What's the Renner? She's like, I just realized like why my husband divorces me or what or something along those lines.
Yeah, why my husband left.
And he's like, you're married?
Yeah.
And it's like, she will be, motherfucker, to you. So it's a good take a step back and fucking check your fucking language privilege and fucking try to all the cliche shit of like, for example, going back to the marriage and divorce thing. Like, I'm married now,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I mean this is coming off of being in a long term relationship, but married puts it in a different galaxy, right? Um, it's a different alien abduction. Um, so how hard is it still for people who are in a relationship, having been in a long term relationship, to still on some level communicate? Like, there are moments where it's like almost, it can be almost psychic potentially, but there are also moments where it's like, how the fuck could you see that way?
Yeah.
And this is like you who's on that side of the bed, fucking like however many inches away from me. It's like you're looking at it from a totally fucking different like perspective. And of course, it's like you're wrong because I'm right. Um, and this is like when people are together. Imagine a fucking creature from this other realm. How difficult is that? So it's like it does offer a sense of hope. It does offer a sense of optimism and a kind of sense of like take a philosophical step back, cool down a little bit, and try to derive meaning. Don't look at every word as potential being weapon. Maybe it's tool. Maybe it's it's fucking the golden rule. Trying to see something from the other person's perspective. It's fun and fancy ways of kind of like getting at that lesson that people are supposed to teach kids. Um, and yeah, I think it's a well needed kind of. I think this is Tokyo's story where you said it was like a palate cleanser, and I think
Mm-hmm.
this is also a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Um, to to look at encounters with the other as potential areas of receiving these tools and these gifts and these things that actually enrich us. And I mean, even just on the fucking, we didn't even go into the, and not that we have to. It's just looking at it from the perspective of immigration uh, and those kind of travel, immigration, um, those kind of encounters with the other. Strange meetings with people on the street. Um, I'm the kind of person, I'm not trying to meet anybody on the fucking street. I'm not trying to meet anybody like, don't fucking talk to me. But sometimes, I mean, that is how people in high school and 20-year-olds make friends. Remember that era of like that period in life where you still make friends?
Yeah, it's a long time
Uh,
ago.
that's how that happens. It's like there's someone who you don't know, and somehow you start to talk to them, and you start to like what they have to say or their interests or whatever, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, that's my friend. Um, it's very strange, but it's a cool concept. Um, so let's have future memories of those.
Yeah.
Buymeacoffee.com/watch Rick Ramos. It's buymeacoffee.com/watch Rick Ramos. This episode is for all of you who will donate to us in the future. Um, you will donate in the future because not only because I'm saying this now, but because some of you have donated in the past and are members, like Stephen Palmer. Some of you will donate in the future because somehow you'll hear about this shit and you'll think it's cool. This one is for you and Stephen Palmer. Thank you all. Good night.